19 teams to go in my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. We're moving on to the Ohio Bobcats. I got on the Ohio shirt, the Bobcats hat. You can see the Bobcat right there. I'm geared up. I'm ready to go. For those of you wondering, have some family around the Athens area. But this is an Ohio team that was fairly disappointing a season ago, and not really a whole lot was working right for the Bobcats last year. And my apologies, they are losing some talent from last season. So this is an Ohio team that I feel like should make some slight improvements in 2022. But this Ohio team, and I know some people around this program expect a lot more. So will Ohio be back maybe potentially for a spot in a bowl game in 2022? Or will this team just maybe make some minor improvements or maybe even take a step back? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason, which means, well, chances are I've already done your favorite team. And if you think that's the case, then go back on my channel, hit the subscribe button first and foremost. Look on my channel, I got playlists so you can more easily find your favorite team. And in case you don't find your favorite team, no worries. Come on back here, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and it'll alert you once your favorite team is uploaded. For fans of the Ohio Bobcats out there, you guys are going to know this team a lot more than I do. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, whatever have you, leave it in the comment section down below. I'd be happy to hear what you guys have to say. Now we can move on to this screen. Ohio Bobcats in 2022 are my 8th ranked team in the Mid-American Conference coming into the 2022 college football season. And last year, well, things did not start off great for the Bobcats. They were 0-4 in non-conference play, did not win a single non-conference game, but things picked up for them as soon as they got into conference play, ended up going 3-5, finishing with a disappointing 3-9 record, but there are some things to build off of from last season. Now, offensively, this team was not great. 371 yards per game with around 22 points per game. Defensively, there's some work to do there as well. 432 yards per game with around 30 points per game. And when we take a look at some of the talent that is leaving this team, well, there's some pretty solid talent on both sides of the ball that are going to be leaving this program. The first of which is Armani Rogers, the backup quarterback from last year, 334 yards and 1 interception a season ago, rocked a 57% completion percentage. You are losing a little bit of depth at that quarterback position, but that means your starter does return. We'll talk about him here in a little bit. Demontre Tuggle, who was the lead rusher last year at 804 yards, 7 touchdowns last year. So you do lose him. But Armani Rogers was the second leading rusher on this team, had 552 yards and 7 touchdowns. Did Armani Rogers last year, including a 99-yard run that he housed. So you lose not only your backup quarterback, but your 2 leading rushers from a season ago. In the wide receiver position, you lose your leading receiver, and Cameron Odom had 406 yards and a touchdown a season ago. Isaiah Cox is also gone. He was the 3rd leading receiver on this team with 362 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jerome Buckner, also a name that's leaving, as well as your tight end, Ryan Lerman, who had 217 yards, was the 4th leading receiver for this team a season ago. In the defensive side of things, well, you lose Will Evans off of the defensive line, had 27 tackles, 2.5 sacks last year. That 2.5 sacks, surprisingly enough, did lead the team last year. And then the defensive back position, Jaron Hampton, had 46 tackles, 3 pass defended. He's gone. Alex Wolf, a guy that had 36 tackles, he's gone. And Jet Elad, a guy that had 30 tackles, also 3 pass defended. He's gone there as well. So not a whole lot leaving the defensive side, but you do also have some fairly solid offensive players leaving, including, in what my opinion, are 2 of your better offensive players from last year in Tuggle and Odom. Now, looking at what they have coming back this year, well, as mentioned, that starting quarterback is coming back. Curtis Rourke. You might be familiar with that last name. Yes, brother of Nathan Rourke. But Curtis had 1,817 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions last year. Did have a 65% completion percentage, but can be a little bit of a better decision maker with the football here at times. With Tuggle gone, you're going to need some guys to step up in the running back room. But Curtis Rourke was the 3rd leading rusher last year with 327 yards and 3 touchdowns. Well, the guy that figures to be that starting running back next year is a guy by the name of O'Shawn Allison with 317 yards a season ago. You also have Say Bangura, back there as well. Had 93 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Bobcats last season. At the wide receiver position, you return guys like Tyler Walton, who had 380 yards, 2 touchdowns. Miles Cross comes back as well, had 124 yards for this team last season. And you also get a transfer over from Rice and August Petrie. Should be a pretty pivotal part of this wide receiver room as well. The tight end next year probably should end up being Alec Burton. Had 54 yards a season ago, but with Lerman gone, Burton figures to come up and be that starting tight end. On the defensive side of things, you return Bryce Dugan. On the defensive line, had 33 tackles, 2 sacks a season ago. Dante Hunter is a transfer coming over from Purdue that should have a pretty big role on that defensive line there as well. Bryce Houston was the leading tackler last year at 96 tackles. He comes back on this team, as well as Cannon Blauser, who was the second leading tackler on this team, had 81 of them. So you return your top 2 tacklers and your top 2 linebackers from a season ago. Tariq Drake comes back as a defensive back, 46 tackles, 2 pass defended, led the team with 3 picks a season ago. Alvin Floyd, also a name that comes back, had 60 tackles last year. And then the guy that had 5 passes defended, which led this defense along with 2 interceptions, second on the team, is Roman Parody. And you have him coming back to help out that secondary there for the Bobcats. Taking a look at the Bobcats schedule, some tricky games in non-conference play. You got to play at home to FAU. That's an FAU team that is going to be pretty solid under Willie Taggart this upcoming season. When you take a look elsewhere, you have some tricky Power 5 non-conference road games on the road against Penn State and on the road against Iowa State. Both of those games, Penn State and Iowa State, looking to make some improvements from where they've been the past couple of seasons. And games going on the road where Ohio probably will not have much of a shot to win either one of those games. However, you do have a winnable non-conference game on the schedule. It's the game against Fordham. Now, Ohio had a winnable non-conference games on the schedule last year in Duquesne, and they ended up losing that game to Duquesne. So hopefully they do not drop this one here at home to Fordham. That's what Bobcat fans are going to hope for. When you take a look in conference play here, some pretty tricky conference games. You got road games against Kent State, Western Michigan, Miami of Ohio, and Ball State. Games at home against Akron, Northern Illinois, Buffalo, and Bowling Green. So let's dive on into this Ohio schedule here a little bit. Again, your non-conference slate, your first 3 games, it's not going to surprise me to see this Bobcats team start out 0-3. FAU, going to be a pretty solid team, and in my opinion, going to be better than Ohio this season. And FAU is a team that can push for a spot in a bowl game. However, Ohio, with what they have coming back, if O'Shawn Allison can pan out, if Curtis Rourke can improve his play, if August Petrie proves to be as lethal as a weapon as people want him to be, I think Ohio can make that game very competitive, may be able to come out with a win there in that game. Then, when you look elsewhere, well, Penn State, Iowa State, probably not much of a shot there to win that game. Now, that game against Fordham, Ohio should be able to win that non-conference game against an FCS opponent this upcoming season. They were not able to do it last year against Duquesne. Last year was a year of many FCS teams beating FBS teams. UC Davis did it to Tulsa, so on and so forth. Hopefully, Ohio does not fall victim to it for the second year in a row. And when you get into conference play, well, there are 3 very, very winnable games at home for this Ohio team, which is exactly what the Bobcats need. Akron, Buffalo, and Bowling Green, which, if you remember, are my 3 bottom teams in the power rankings this season. Bowling Green, in my opinion, is going to be the toughest out of those games. They have the most amount of talent coming back, not just in the Mid-American Conference, but in the entire nation there as well. They're losing pretty much nothing off that team from last year, a team that won 4 games a season ago. So watch out for the Falcons. Could be tricky. Buffalo is losing a lot of talent, and, well, they may very well be a worse team in 2022. And Akron, that's just not going to be a good football team in 2022. So 3 winnable games there at home for the Ohio Bobcats. I know I talked like Bowling Green's not going to be much of a winnable game, but that's a very, very winnable game. Now, and then, of course, that game against Northern Illinois at home, going to be tricky. That's a team that won the conference and returns the quarterback from last season. Kent State loses their quarterback. You play them on the road. Western Michigan loses their quarterback and top wide receiver in Sky Moore. You play them on the road. Those are still going to be 2 solid teams teams that can push for spots in bowl games this upcoming season. Miami of Ohio is a team that can push for a spot not only in a bowl game, but in their division. They have the best quarterback in the conference in Gabbert coming back for this team. And on the road at Ball State, hey, that's a winnable game there for the Ohio Bobcats. Now, I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based outlook. Tell me predict the team's record. So if the game's in red, I just don't see you winning the game. If the game is in orange, I still don't see you winning. But hey, it is college football and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games that you should win. But hey, let's watch out for teams on the other side of the ball. And games in green, I have you winning. So Fordham, I think that should be a win. Akron, I think that should be a win there as well. Again, it's not going to surprise me to see Ohio start off 0-3. They definitely will not go on the road and win in Happy Valley. They definitely will not go on the road and beat Iowa State in Ames. They could end up beating FAU at home. They could. I do not see it happening. I'm leaning towards the Owls in that matchup. But with what this Ohio team has coming back, especially if they can get a lot of things going, a lot of things clicking in week 1, right out of fall camp, Ohio could make that game very, very interesting. I'm going to keep my eyes on that week 1 matchup there. Could be a little bit of an under-the-radar yet fun game to watch. When you look elsewhere in conference play, I just don't see them being able to beat Kent State. Even though Dustin Crum is gone, that team still has a lot of talent. Northern Illinois is returning their quarterback from last season, and they won the Mid-American Conference a season ago. Miami of Ohio is a team that has the best quarterback in this conference in Gabbert, and again, can push for a spot in the conference championship game. But now let's get to the winnable games here on the schedule. Of course, Akron is going to be a winnable game in this conference. But Western Michigan is also a winnable game. Look, they lose Caleb Ellaby. They lose Sky Moore. That quarterback-wide receiver duo that was pretty solid for them. Now, there is talent coming back for that Western Michigan team, and definitely is not going to be an easy game to win with them having to go on the road and play that game. But it's a game that Ohio can win, especially, again, if they can get things to click. I've already talked about why Buffalo's a winnable game. Bowling Green, I haven't really talked about much why that's a winnable game. All I said was Bowling Green does have a lot of talent returning, and pretty much most of that team returns from last season. But Bowling Green is a team that, well, definitely not going to be one of the more talented rosters in the Mid-American Conference. Ohio, very much so, can pull off that win in the final game of the year against Bowling Green. And they may have to if they find themselves with around 5-6 and maybe looking to push for a spot into a bowl game. And then Ball State, that's a very winnable game. That's a team that loses Drew Plitt, some pretty solid options on offense and defense. Ball State may also regress in 2022. I see this Ohio team making some improvements in 2022. I think Curtis Rourke is going to improve. I think this wide receiver group is going to be not necessarily lethal, but I think it's going to be good enough to pull out some wins for this Ohio team. But where I worry is the running back position. I wonder how O'Shawn Allison's going to be able to fit in. I wonder how some of the transfers on this defense fit out. I think overall it's a team that should make some improvements, but I don't necessarily see that translating to many more wins. So I have this team at 4-8 this upcoming season. I do think Ohio is making improvements, taking steps in the right direction, and I think if all goes well, if things can click for this team right out of fall camp, I think a bowl game is very much a possibility for this Ohio team. But I got them sitting here at 4-8. Let me know what you guys think about the Bobcats in the comment section below. And hey, please like, comment, subscribe, share my videos. It helps support the channel, gets it out to as many people as possible. And remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.